Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. My name is Alan Smason, and welcome once again to NOLA Theater Talk. This is part of our outreach from the NOLA Theater Folk Facebook group that we started. We now have 475 members. Thank you very much for being a part of our group. If you're already a part of the group, if you're not, you can certainly join if you're on Facebook, no charge, and we would love to have you become a part of our community. It's also seen on a weekly basis when we have our broadcast on the theatercriticism.com Facebook page. Not to be confused with the theatercriticism.com website, which I also created, but which is essentially a place for reviews by different critics, etc., and is not intended to be a place or where we would format a live stream broadcast. And also, of course, on my own YouTube channel. So those are the three spots where you can see it. And those of you who happen to know me personally, you'll be able to see this in all of its glory. Later on tonight, I'll post it to my wall on Facebook. And again, those of you who are interested in either posting a comment or perhaps might have a question, please, by all means, feel free to do so. Use that link right there, StreamYard.com/Facebook. That will allow you to post your name, and that way we'll know who you are. If not, it'll just show up as Facebook user, which is great for some people if they want to be anonymous, but it's not great for us if during the course of the conversation we want to see who is asking a question or who's making a comment. And that pretty for those of you who have been very fortunate this past week, musical theater returned to New Orleans, not just this past weekend, but the weekend before, when Summer Lyric Theater at Tulane made a presentation. And this is probably the first time they've done one outside or off the Tulane campus, but they did this one at the New Orleans Jazz Museum, what many of the locals will call the Old Mint, which of course was a working mint many years ago, back in the 19th century. Anyway, it's now a really well-established museum dedicated to the preservation of jazz and other, I would say, indigenous music to New Orleans. You can go in there and you'll see artifacts relating to people like Fats Domino and Professor Longhair. It's not just jazz, but largely it's dedicated to jazz. And of course, jazz had an effect on all of that music, whether it be funk or rock or whatever you might want to relate to the different forms of music that came out of New Orleans. So it really is a music museum, but they call it the New Orleans Jazz Museum. It's run by the state. And they have a beautiful back area where they have two balconies, second floor and a third floor balcony. And it was used to great effect. The director, Palenko Jones Jr., who also choreographed this piece, was blessed. He had four wonderful singers and then four other singers and dancers who were in support. Those of you who are familiar with songs for A New World by Jason Robert Brown know that it was originally written for four people. The way that it was presented with Palenko directing and staging this, he used actually double the number. So there were some places where to put some of the people who might have been doing something a little bit differently. And I think it was really done to great effect. The four singing people, though, three of whom were Equity members and one of whom we're going to have on in our show in just a second, were wonderful. And then the other main singer, if you will, was actually an Equity candidate. So, and I will mention, Michael McKelvey was on the show. He said it was not a real equity show in that regard. The next two, however, will be. And so it's wonderful to see Equity people working again. It's so difficult to really, say how much it is impacted in terms of our local theater by getting Equity players to be able to partake. We have had in the past several companies that have had understandings and contracts with the Equity Union, if you will, the Actors Equity Association, but we are not guaranteed that we'll be able to get people in. There's some houses that are just having more of a difficulty in being able to establish that rapport with the union. Hopefully we can improve that, because some of the very best people out there are in Actors Equity, or perhaps might also be in SAG-AFTRA, which is, of course, the union that's dedicated more towards the film industry, but has, because of the pandemic, more or less gotten into the business of also producing shows that are basically filmed out of sequence. That's pretty much the best way to do a description, because of the two competing unions. Let's go on and get into this right away. I want to really welcome somebody who I watched as a youngster back when she was at NOCA, and also who had the benefit of seeing when she was performing on Broadway. I didn't get to see her perform on Broadway. We'll discuss that because she wasn't on the particular day that I was there. But I did get to see the production, and it was spectacular. And again, I'm not going to take any more time out. Let's bring her in. Ximone Rose, welcome. It is a pleasure to have you on NOLA Theater Talk. And again, I cannot tell you how much it means to me that you're here tonight. So I appreciate your being able to come back and let everybody know that you are here. I know you got to get that phone, right? just when I'm putting you on. They couldn't have talked to you earlier, right? Anyway, so first off, in case anybody's thinking I misspelled your name, your name is spelled that way, Ximone, but it's with an X and not an S. Every time I tried to write you an email, it would autocorrect. It would say, "You don't mean X, you mean an S, don't you?" And I kept, "No, I don't." So, and in your honor, Ximone, I want you to know that tonight I have a rose cocktail. Now, you probably don't know what this is.
What is it?
But I will tell you, it is, and by the way, it is stirred, not shaken. It's one of those drinks you stir, you don't shake it. It is 1.5 ounces of gin and 1/2 ounce each of cherry brandy and dry vermouth. And I've never had one before, but in a rose cocktail, I said, I've got to have this. This is, perfect. So let me see. It tastes as delicious as you are lovely and talented. There you go. So, Ximone, please, for the benefit of everybody, I mean, you are a New Orleanian, correct?
I am.
What area did you grow up in?
I grew up and currently in Gentilly. I went to Ben Franklin, so I live really close to it. And NOCA, yeah, right off of Elysian Fields my whole life until now, that I live in New York.
And where's the best fried chicken in that area, right?
Actually, you're asking the wrong person because
okay.
I'm pescatarian.
Okay. I was just going to say they had the Mackenzie's chicken in a box that used to be not too far away from there. And everybody used to line up for that on Mardi Gras. And that was before a lot of people favored Popeyes, et cetera. But I mean, they had really, I just thought it was a neighborhood thing, not too far away from Elysian Fields and Gentilly Boulevard.
Yeah, they're actually still there.
I know. It's the only one like it. So you went to Ben Franklin. Now, who were the teachers at Ben Franklin that you worked with? Do you remember anybody that we might know? Were you doing theater?
Theater? No, because I went to Ben Franklin and NOCA at the same time.
Right. So Jefferson Turner was one of your instructors at NOCA?
At NOCA, yeah.
Yeah. And so how did that work? I mean, I remember Harry Connick was one of the first people I know. Winton, and I know I believe Bradford as well, that they had done some work when their dad was over at NOCA, but that's the old NOCA. That was not the new NOCA. That was when NOCA was located elsewhere. Now, which NOCA did you attend? Was it the new campus or the older campus? I assume the new one, right?
I went to the one that's like right on the river.
Right. Okay. Yeah. Where the train runs right into it, right?
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. So yeah, but again, I know that you could only do, like, at one point some of the schools wouldn't allow you. I know at one point, I think when Harry Connick Jr. did it, De La Salle had to make a special case, I think, for or Jesuit had to make a special case for him to go, because they weren't used to this. The NOCA, what is that, right? So, but by the time you did, I'm sure that they had it all laid out for you. So you went to school in the morning at Ben Franklin, and then around noon or so you drive over to NOCA?
Yeah, I would take 2 classes every day, and then they would release for lunch around like 10:30 or so, and then I was kind of just free to either hang around and catch a bus to NOCA, or if I had friends who were driving, they'd pick me up and we'd get food and then head to NOCA for like a 1:00 class. Yeah.
And for somebody who's now, maybe they have a child, or perhaps somebody who's watching this who may see it maybe later, how valuable was that experience that you had at NOCA?
Oh, I mean, it was everything. Yeah.
That says a lot. Yeah. That says a lot. And so what were some of the productions that you were involved in at at NOCA? Were they singing, or were they acting roles that you were dealing with, or a combination of both?
Both. I studied musical theater, so we did musicals. What did I do there? I did The Apple Tree,
Ah, okay,
The Secret Garden,
sure.
Swing the musical.
Now that one I don't think I remember too much, but
Yeah.
now did you participate at all in the production they did of Violet?
That was after I left for college, but I did come back because it was during the summer and I saw it.
Yeah, that was a special one too. And
Yeah,
they've
yeah,
done things like Big Fish, in recent years, which
yeah,
was
yeah.
only on Broadway just a short while ago too. So congratulations to them, and that's a wonderful commentary from a graduate, an alum, as it were. Of the importance of what NOCA brings to somebody who's interested in musical theater. So once you get out of there, you went where to college?
The University of Michigan.
Okay, and that's the big school, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. So now, I mean, how was that in terms of your experience? Was it what you expected, or was it somehow different than your expectations?
It was what I expected, I guess. It's one of the best schools for musical theater, so I really wanted to go there. I kind of threw all of my eggs in one basket when it came to uh, choosing where I wanted to go. Um, but yeah, I mean the resources I had there and the connections and the networking and the things that I learned are just amazing. I mean, I still get work because either they know that I went there or like one of the teachers is like, "Oh, I know someone who would be great for this, Simone," or other alumni who are, doing well, they'll hit me up and be like, "Hey, this teacher gave me your information." And so it's been awesome. Yeah.
Were you there for the full 4-year program before you got
Yeah.
called away? Okay,
Yeah.
so you actually now are you in the possession of a master's, or of a bachelor's
A B.
for
Yeah, I have a
yeah.
B.
So any thought about going back to school? Or you think you're pretty well trained, and you don't need it any
I have
longer?
no true interest in going back to college. If
Right.
anything, I would like to take some classes on like specific things, like some music stuff, but
Mhm.
I don't need to go back and like get a degree. I'm doing just fine.
Yes, you are. So, in case anybody doesn't know, you've been on the national tour of Beautiful,
Yes.
and of course, you were on Broadway. And I would call that what, a standby role. Was it
Yeah,
considered an understudy or standby? It was a
I
standby,
did
wasn't it?
thing. So I covered like 5 different roles that I would go on whenever they needed me to, which was
Right.
often because people are always getting hurt and falling down in that show. It's
And
very interesting.
and we're going to show some wonderful pictures from that show, which I think will be of interest to you too, because there's some photos of some folks that you work side by side with that
Hmm.
I took, independent of what Broadway had supplied to me for
Mm.
reviews and things of that sort. So we're going to share all those. But first off, I want to go back and take a look at some of the other pictures that you had sent me. And I know, before I go any further, I have good news about the show you just came off, which was, of course, Songs for a New World, Jason Robert Brown. This was a show that was his first show. It was a review show. Really didn't have much of a book to speak of, like a traditional musical theater piece might, but it did have some beautiful music. I would say that probably the one song that was most noted because so many people used it in cabaret performances was the piece that Meredith did called "Stars in the Moon." But
Hmm.
there are some other really wonderful pieces that are on display in that show that also show off a lot of the, if you will, talent of Jason Robert Brown. And this was the first show that he ever did. Apparently,
Yeah.
he'd been working for 5 years, slaving away, as it were, on all of these different pieces for different people, and he had this repertoire, and he ran into Daisy Prince, who is Hal Prince, the producer's daughter,
Hmm.
and who really didn't have, as I understand it, much of a reputation as a director. he said, "Here, why don't you direct me?" And apparently she said yes. So it's, the story is that that's how it happened. And she had, you know, so much material to pull from that they were able to basically use what he had already written and incorporate it into a show that showcased the different talents of the different people who were in it. And as I said, it's 4 people originally, but then the way you all did it was you expanded it for some of the other roles. And what Palenko did with the dancing, this really incredible fluid choreography, was just a sight to behold. I mean, you used that entire edifice, that back porch edifice, both second and third floor balconies at different times, and of course the entire area down below, which I guess we might consider the patio. But
Right.
my goodness, and they put the orchestra, the 5 pieces that they had with Natalie True playing the keyboard in the left side of that second balcony, and left them. I hope that none of their music blew away, because the night I was there, it was a little windy, and they had to hold on to some of their pieces there. But it was just spectacularly done. And I don't know, you know, usually that I credit the stage managers, but I noticed India Mack and her assistant stage manager. I mean, they did an incredible job of getting you guys in and out, and moving you all around. And I guess there was a lot of moving parts in this thing, because it never had been done before that I know of, that they ever did a show outside of Tulane.
It was the first one.
And it was also the first time that they had a director who was a person of color, as I recall, right?
Yeah.
So some firsts that you know, Summer Lyric Theater at Tulane has had, and maybe, of course, the beginning of a new era at Summer Lyric, that we can be proud that they're leading the way there. And again, how did you, before I go to show some of these pictures, how did you get approached? Did you already know Michael, or was he already aware of your work?
Yeah, so this was my first time meeting Michael, but Palenko and I actually did Hairspray at Le Petit when I was like 16.
Really?
16. Yeah. So that's how we actually met, and we've been friends since. And Palenko lived in New York for a stint of time, and you know, we were both working out there and spending time together. And when the pandemic happened, Palenko came back.
Right.
And called me and was like, "Hey, I'm doing Songs for a New World, and I would really, really love if you could be in it." And I was like, "Absolutely." I'm not, you know, like, I would love to be creative in any way possible right now, you know? So there was
yeah, that had to be quite. Now, did he explain at first that when they first started planning this, as I understand it, they did not even know whether or not the Jazz Museum would work out? Because if you remember, 3 months ago when they first started planning this, people were still wearing masks, and essentially social distancing. You couldn't have chairs next to each other, so they might have been able, instead of getting 100 people for the night, they might have only been able to get 40 people for the night,
right?
Because of having a distance 6 feet and then people in front, etc. So did he say, you know, we're going to do this outdoors, we think, but we're not sure where?
No,
I mean,
when he told me, it was like a week and a half, 2 weeks before rehearsals started.
Oh, okay.
So it was like a very short turnaround for me, but by that point they were like, "We're doing it there." Yeah.
So for the people who didn't get a chance to see it, let me see if we can show a couple of these nice pictures here. This is again, some of these, I have to apologize. Some of these were not shot. I think all of them were not shot with your costumes on. So this is like from a dress rehearsal, but you can see some of that choreography we were talking about. And again, just really wonderful work that Palenko was responsible. I believe that's Prentice, isn't Prentice Mouton, Prentice E. Mouton from Memphis, and of course Meredith Owens. Of course, Meredith had been involved with Summer Lyric. She was, if I'm not mistaken, she played Gypsy Rose Lee. She played you know, the part of the lady who would become Gypsy, not Mama Rose, but Gypsy. And she'd been involved also as, I think, Ilona in She Loves Me. Not bad. And there you are. And again, I apologize. I think your eyes are shut a little bit. so we can't really see your, you know, your eyes. But here's the whole cast. Now this was a nice shot. It really shows. And then of course, Adair Watkins, right, was the former Big Easy boy. That's Julia Swan on the rear right, and is it Madison Britton? Is that right? On the
Yeah, Matt,
chair.
her last
Yeah,
name, but yeah,
I think it's Britton. And then of course you're in the front there, right? Now that obviously is not your hair, right? That's
it's not.
and again, uh, just a really wonderful cast. And I believe I have a picture of you. There's Prentice again. I think I have another picture of you. Um, if I can find them, that's just some of the other members. Again, really wonderfully. I think you're on
Yep.
the balcony, and then
Yep.
I think you and Adair. Now you and Adair had two duets, right? That you all had
Oh
that you
yeah, we
shared,
we're always singing together.
and which was nice. And then I think I got one of you doing a solo. So those were just again from the production, and I'm going to close out with the last picture. I think this is Julie, and I'm not sure if that was that
Yeah,
Eric or
D'Angelo.
D'Angelo. Okay, so there you go. I mean, again, for those of you who missed it, a really wonderful show for the first outing. But here's the great news that a lot of people don't know about, that I'm going to tell everybody about right now because it's so important for us to know. So, Songs for a New World can now be seen on demand, and if you want to get tickets, this is where you have to go. Okay, write this down now. I'm going to put it up, but write it down. It's www.showtixforyou.com/event-details 54665. I'm going to leave that up for a bit so you can see it. But again, that's where you go to get a copy, if you will, on demand of the show, which I didn't even know they were recording it. They must have done that the last weekend, perhaps.
They actually recorded the first one, but that was our first time doing everything together. And so
Oh,
we
okay.
like, please don't use that one. So they ended up filming it Friday on the last weekend.
Okay, good. So they did abide by your wishes. And
Yeah.
again, those of you who want to check it out again, showtixforyou.com/event-details 54665. By the way, what are you having? As I told you, I had my rose cocktail. So you're having
Just a
what is
lot
that?
of this IPA.
It's what I tell people, it doesn't have to be alcoholic, but anytime I can share a drink with somebody across the aisle, I'm very happy to do so. Simone, I wanted to go over a little bit about your details. You see, we already talked about Michigan. So tell me your journey when you left Michigan, and did you go immediately to New York to audition? I mean,
Yes. So, I had I showcased first and from wow, words. I showcased after in New York, and I was there for like just a very short amount of time because I was actually going to Music Theater Wichita and Kansas to do summer stock. So I was there for a few months, and we did like Aida and Big Fish, um, Billy
now, were
Elliot.
you in a leading role in Aida or in a subsidiary role?
My role was in Big Fish. I was the witch in Big Fish, so that was like
Okay.
my little moment. So I was there for that, and then I went back to New York. And
With or without an agent by this time?
I had an agent. I had like a
Okay.
really good response post showcase. I found like my favorite people in the world to be with, and I'm still with them, and I love them dearly. And then I got a show at the Fulton Theater in Lancaster, Pennsylvania. So I went there and I did Legally Blonde.
Ah.
Yeah, and then we were about to move into the theater for Sister Act, which was the second show I was doing there, when I got hired for Beautiful. So I
And
left.
I'm assuming you were doing one of the roles of the female singer groups like the Shirelles, etc. Is that right?
So
Or
when I got hired, it was actually as the female swing. So I covered all the Shirelles and then two of the like uh, ensemble other girls. and I did that for about maybe close to less than a year, but then I took over the role of Lucille, who is the secretary and also sings. She's the lead Sherelle for "Will You Still Love Me Tomorrow."
Yeah.
Mhm.
A great song too, you know. It
It's so
doesn't
good.
hurt. Yeah, yeah. Did you get a chance to see Beautiful when it was on Broadway? Did you
Oh, that
when
was
Jesse
funny.
Mueller was in it?
Yeah, I saw that show. I loved it. And then when I was in the city for like literally like 3 days before I had to leave to go to St. Louis to start rehearsals, I was doing, wig appointments and costume appointments. But every night, every day we would rehearse, and then at night I would go watch the show. So I saw that show so many times.
Well,
uh,
because I know Jesse left it after fashion. I was very fortunate to be able to see her when she was still in
mhm.
the role. And interestingly enough, her sister, not right away, but her sister ended up taking over the role too.
Her
Uh,
sister, no, her sister was actually who they hired to play it on the tour. And then,
yes, and what happened
yeah,
was she was supposed to come to New Orleans. You know, in the story, right?
yeah,
She was supposed to be in New Orleans, and she got hired because the lady who was doing the role ended up going to, I believe, Toronto.
yeah,
And her sister, who was supposed to be in New Orleans at the Sanger playing, she ended up in New York. So we
yeah,
never did get
yeah.
to see
So yeah, that's
Jesse
exactly.
Mueller's sister, but she's supposed to be fabulous too. And
Oh,
and
her
uh,
voice is
yeah,
incredible.
you
She's
know, apparently the talent in that family is quite
truly.
impressive. So, you know, again, and I was very fortunate to be able to see Jessie in Waitress.
Mm,
She didn't come out, you know, after the show like she did for Beautiful, but you know, I have to admit that's probably that show's probably a lot more hectic because
yeah,
there's
yeah,
you
yeah.
know that I mean she carries the weight of that show much more
Yeah.
than even though Beautiful is called the Carole King musical. There are times where, like Anika Larson, you know, Cynthia Weil, and the guy who played Barry Mann, they would take off some of
Right.
the weight of the show. They would be the focus. And same thing with some of the people who were doing some of the other subsidiary parks, you know, the Don Kirshner roles and things of that sort. So she didn't have to be constantly on. And I have to say, Jesse fooled me completely. I mean, completely fooled me. I thought she was absolutely playing piano. You know, I mean,
Yeah.
she
Yeah.
she she is a wonderful actor, and she got that down. I said, you know, because I wasn't really close up looking, you know,
Right.
but
Right.
it just, I mean, it just was flowing, and so I just assumed it would. And of course, she admitted that no, she can't play, but you know, there are other people who can, and you know, are able to do the role. But I thought for sure that you know, she must have known how to play because you know it just was that tight and that beautiful. But I guess you know that's one of the things that they made sure that she was you know doing right. You know that was essential to the role. But
Right.
so to go on again, when did you come off of Beautiful and eventually get notice about you know Once on This Island?
So I left Beautiful um like Thanksgiving-ish in 2017.
Right.
I got back to the city like very, very beginning of December 2017. And then I had I was there for a month not working. And then, like, very beginning of January, I got called in to audition for Once on This Island. And I almost didn't go because I was sick. And my partner at the time was just like, just do it. Just go do it. And I was like, okay, I'm going to do it. And then, like, thank God I did it. Because literally, like, 3 days later, my agent called me and was like, can you start in like 2 weeks, you know? And I was like,
Wow.
yes.
So what was your audition song? Do you remember?
um, yeah, I pretty much sing the same song for everything unless they give me a song, and that my audition
Right.
song is River Deep Mountain High by Tina Turner.
Oh, okay.
So I sing that for everything unless they give me material, which I think they actually gave us material for that show. So I think I had to. Oh, you know what? I don't think I sang that. I think I sang a. I sang Magic to Do from Pippin. That's what I
Oh,
sang. Yeah, I have like a really cute.
Patina Miller style, right?
Yeah, I have a really cute cut of that, and I thought it fit the storyteller kind of vibe of the show. So
Yeah.
that actually is what I sang.
I think I remember hearing Seth Rudetsky talk about the show that they changed the key because it was a female. That
Yeah.
what Ben Vereen did originally, they start off doing that a little bit, but then they changed the key sort of midway, not even really midway, like right towards the very beginning. Is to accommodate the female voice, which is interesting. I think that's probably right. That's a fabulous. That's one of my favorite. You know, with all the hands moving. Now, again, it was different with the new production, as you know, at the Magic Box. But the original that you ever saw, they had the hands that almost seemed like they were floating in air. Everybody wore the black, and everybody was blacked out, and the hands were just lit up, and it was just magic, you know, as they say, magic to do. And so you knew that you were going to be, you got notified through your agent, I assume, that you'd gotten the role, and now you already had, I assume, a card because of being on the national tour for so you already had your equity card, etc. Huh?
I got my equity card when I did Legally Blonde.
Ah, okay, very good. So yeah, I mean, from that point on, you must have been sort of just walking on air in a sense while you got ready for the thing to take place.
I did that for a year.
How hard was the rehearsal? Was it harder than anything you'd ever done before?
Oh my goodness. I think luckily because I had swung for a period of time on Beautiful, I did have the experience under my belt, so I was able to absorb a lot of information on a bunch of different characters and was able to retain that. But it did move extremely fast. You know, like every day I was in a costume fitting or wig thing, and then I'd have to go to rehearsal, and then I'd have like a 30-minute break, and then I'd have to go watch the show because I'd have 1 week to learn one track, and then the next week we were moving on to a different track. And that show in particular, Once on This Island, the music, everyone has their own very specific parts because we are supposed to be like the sounds of the birds and the wind. So like everyone's line is so specific and stands out. So you really have to know exactly what each character was. So that was really hard. But like being someone who is a musician, like I actually loved the challenge. And that show is amazing, you know.
You know what I have to say, I'm not sure under the current climate we'd be able to find, but as to whether or not people would take offense. But Lynn Ahrens and Stephen Flaherty, for people who were white people writing this Caribbean music, they got it perfect. I don't know how they did it, but they did it. And I don't think they've ever done a show that was similar. It was almost as if it wrote itself. They said when I heard them talk about it that the music just sort of poured out of them, and it was almost spontaneous. And I don't know that any of that you could find a song that really doesn't fit the mode of what you would consider from that area. And again, it's supposed to be what like Antigua, right? The area with the Antilles, right? Is that kind of where it is? The Antilles?
Yeah, it's kind of in the revival, at least it was unspokenly supposed to be on Haiti.
Okay.
Post
post hurricane. Anyway, so I have to say that I showed up a couple of the pictures from Once on This Island, but there's some more that you supplied, and I wanted to just go back real quick. This is, I think, one of the Shirelle pictures that we didn't get a chance.
Oh.
Is that correct? Yeah. That now who's that front and center there?
I'm at the self.
Right. And who do you know who that?
On this other side, from left to right, is Tracy. I can't think of her last name. McKinley Abraham, and then who is that? That might be Alexis Tidwell.
I just wondering if you remember what the character they were portraying. Was it?
Oh yes. The one on the left, she sang Uptown, and then the one in the middle sang One Fine Day.
Okay.
And closest to me, she sang Locomotion.
Gotcha. So that would have been Little Eva.
Yeah.
That's it. Okay. I was just trying to remember that Little Eva was supposed to have been Carole King's maid or babysitter or something along those lines. Yeah.
They're like, "You want to sing this?" And I was like,
Yeah.
"Okay."
So this is some of the pictures from Once on This Island. These were supplied by the press relations people. So when I got to see the show, I was able to review it.
Mhm.
And that is Alex Newell, correct?
Yes.
And Alex played
Asaka.
Asaka. And again, Asaka is the Earth Mother goddess, if you will. And again, I guess it's just acting, but I didn't. I thought Alex was really, wonderful in the role. I had no idea that he was gender. They were gender fluid. I just loved the role and thought that they did an incredible version. So, but the
Yeah.
fact that I've seen Alex perform since that time, recently on the Seth Rudetsky show, etc. What a
Yeah.
talent! Oh my God, what a talent!
Yeah.
And I mean, I have to say that as whatever role they're doing, they do an excellent job. So
Yeah.
they're a threat. Whether it's a male role or a female role, Alex is certainly able to handle both with
Mhm.
equal equanimity, as it were. Really wonderful. Now, tell me who the fellow that was. He played, I think,
That is, he plays Tauntaun, which is
the father, right?
father. His name is Philip Boykin.
Yes, he's been in a couple things too. I've seen some of the things.
Yeah,
He was
he's
very.
done Porgy and Bess and
That's where I saw him. Yes, and I
sure.
remember I caught a glimpse of him after the show, prior to my meeting you at that little sushi
Mm,
restaurant. This is
yeah.
Halloween of 2018. So,
Yeah.
and I think that may be a friend that he saw on the street who was in one of the
Yeah,
productions.
that's Kent Overshawn. He actually also went to University of Michigan, and he's a good
Ah, okay.
friend.
And again, this was the young lady. She again nominated for a Tony Award.
Mhm.
She took over the role that LaChance had actually done originally, and Halloween.
Halloween. Oh my god, it sure was. That's so funny.
And I know that there were some other folks who were in the show. Well, there's Philip again. I think he was holding up my CD that I had. I said, I have people nowadays. Nobody makes CDs for the Broadway shows that they do. It's sort of like an afterthought. But I actually had the CD that I had them all signed, and that way I don't ever get a program signed because I'll misplace the program. I never misplace the CD.
Right.
This was the fellow who played. I guess that would be the role of the young man that.
Yeah.
Um,
That character's name. Oh my
yeah,
gosh.
I'm trying to remember, but it
Isaac
begins with a D, like something, right? Like
Dan-
Duvalier or something like.
Daniel.
Yeah. Daniel,
Yeah.
and there's another lady here.
Yeah, that's Anna.
Yeah, that's my friend Susan, who was there watching
Uh-huh.
the show with me. I got a chance to bring her, and I think the only other ones to bring out, of course, your lovely picture, and then you had to ruin it with another person in there. Yeah. I don't know who took that picture, but the lens didn't break for whatever reason. But it was such a joy to see all the people joining in after the show to really just have a good fun time Halloween, and it was a little chilly, as in New York it does get a little cold around the end of October,
Right.
but everybody was having a good time, and I know we ordered a bunch of different food items, and we kind of all shared, and some people had sushi and whatever. I don't really remember the name of the place, but I know you'd know it offhand, but but
Oh,
it's just a nice place to hang out after the show, and you said that's where we're going to be, and I said fine, I'll meet you afterwards. So
like
and actually
right
you went
across.
out of your way because you weren't performing that day. You actually went out of your way after the show to come meet us over there. So I
Mhm.
really thank you very much. But anytime I can meet up with a New Orleanian, in New York, it always gladdens my heart. I mean, that's a tradition that goes back with me from the time I met Brian Batt. He gave me a backstage tour with my son and my mom back in 1995 on, I know the date, I don't know why it's ingrained in my mind, April the 18th, 1995, which was the day before the Oklahoma City bombing. We were on stage with a backstage tour after everybody left the theater, and Brian was giving us the tour. And afterwards, we went to some little place where the actors hang out, not Sardi's, but another place. And it turned out that Brian was with us having dinner, and he ran into the producer for Jeffrey, which I think had not come out yet, but he had filmed it, and he had to run and leave there to go talk to them. And of course, that was a role that a lot of people remember he was in with Sir Patrick Stewart,
Right.
Captain Picard from Star Trek. Anybody remembers? But just a lovely opportunity to be with you for a little bit of time while these people from New Orleans were just sort of hanging out. And I appreciate you doing that. So again, you came down here. You've emerged triumphantly. This was the first show down with Palenko. I don't know if they've approached him about doing any more. I know not this summer because Diane Lala's doing the next show, which is going to be a Grand Night for Singing.
I think that Palenko is,
and I think he's going to be back with Michael McKelvey here co-directing Jesus Christ Superstar. But in terms of him doing something on his own, I know Michael and he are going to share duties for the directing for the third show. So I'm hoping that he'll be able to be asked to come back and do some more things. And I'm sure creatively, he's got one of the best minds for choreography that I've seen out here. I mean, I remember he did some work at the National World War II Museum as well when he did Ain't Misbehavin' with Jarrell Hamilton, who he also works with quite a bit. I don't know if you've met Jarrell. Do you know who her?
Yeah.
Okay. So it's sort of like the family, is up in New If we're going to make an impact, it's going to be one that people will remember. And hopefully, as I say, I hope that this is just the first of many productions that Palenko will be involved with. Just like every year they ask Diane to come back, and maybe they'll be able to do the same with him. And and perhaps Michael will say, okay, I'm going to do one a year or whatever, because I know he loves to direct too. And I think he was so proud of what you all were able to achieve, on so many different levels, because, and I know I don't want to speak for Michael, but last year was a rough year. I mean, not just for all of us who were shut in, et cetera, but Michael was trying his best to get something out there to present a show. And every time he'd turn around to try to get something going, it was another door that was shut. And he just, every time he tried to do something, he just didn't work. And I know that this is sort of like him getting his feet planted back again and saying, I'm back. And I know that's got to be something that has to resonate for not only him but everybody who appreciates all that he does, because he really is one of the hardest working people in New Orleans. I'm part of the Big Easy Theater Committee, and we always consider people who do a lot. We nominate them for like Theater Person of the Year or Lifetime Achievement Award, things of that sort.
Fun fact: I won a Big Easy Award for Best Child Actor when I was in high school for 13, the musical at Look Petite.
I remember that. And that was another piece by Jason Robert Brown, right? Wasn't that one of his early works as well?
Yeah.
Not everybody is in love with that. I want you to know, because that's not how most bar mitzvahs roll. I want you to know that.
I bet.
It's very, very interesting, but I think he's an enormously talented individual, Jason Robert Brown. Had you seen any of his other works, whether it's Bridges of Madison County, or had you seen the last 5 years or Parade?
5 years, and everything that he's done, I've definitely listened to. I love his stuff. He's like a newer Stephen Sondheim.
He's married to a phenomenal musical talent too, Georgia Stitt. I don't know if you know Georgia.
Yeah, I mean,
she's amazing, and the fact that the two, I mean, they're almost a power couple, in terms of their influence on one another and what they do. I think Georgia's maybe a little bit more behind the scenes, but she's a formidable music director, and I think that the collaboration that they have together as a couple, has rubbed off on each other, and I think maybe even improved what they were without each other. That they're bigger than the sum of their parts. I always said that I liked his music. Now some people favor his lyrics more. I liked his music, but I always, and I told this to Michael too, I always thought that he would have benefited the same way that Rogers benefited from a writing partner like Lorenz Hart or Oscar Hammerstein II. That I always thought that if he worked with another person to do the lyrics and he concentrated on the music, that I thought that there'd be, a different kind of product. It wouldn't all be JRB, so to speak, but that
Right.
it would maybe have been something that might have had a different kind of aspect to it than you would get from just one person. It's
Mhm.
difficult to edit yourself, if you understand what I mean. Um, and I think that I have the same hubris as a lot of people do. When you write something, you say, well, that's good enough, and that's the best I can do. And I've seen how something that I think is really, quite wonderful and couldn't be improved, when it's submitted to an editor and they look at it with a different aspect and with their own eye, find ways to really improve it more than you could have ever believed. And I think it's helpful to have that other aspect, as
Yeah.
I mentioned. Even Lennon and McCartney, they would complement each other, and you know Paul might write something and John would write something, and they would fit.
Yeah.
That's the best way I could describe it. So I believe in musical theater that it could definitely be something to think about as far as an improvement. So you're finished now for here. Where to from here? What are you going to do after
My
you're going
flight,
back to New York? I know, right?
yeah, going
Yeah.
back to New York.
And but have you got anything lined up yet? I mean, I know it's slow to open up again, but
um,
September doors will start be opening to the theaters. So
yeah,
have you
I'm
has you
in final callbacks for some stuff, and I don't think I'll be going into a room about them until maybe July, August. Um, I'm part of a new musical that's going to go to Broadway, and freaking COVID messed everything up. We were supposed to do our out of town tryout in April, and then
I'm
that got,
sorry.
so now that's going to be postponed. I was doing a show off Broadway at the time, and that got closed because of COVID.
And when you say close, it's not coming back, right?
Yeah, it was just for the run. Luckily, we were almost done with our run anyway, but
Yeah.
yeah,
Well, I had a friend of mine who was about to open on Broadway in Carolina Change.
yeah.
He's doing the grandfather's role that
Mm.
that we did Carolina Change down here a few years ago. It was a joint venture between Jefferson Performing Arts Society and Loyola University, and so they used a lot of the Loyola University staff, but some really wonderful actors and singing actors as well who did some of these incredible roles. Um, and
I did that show in college. It was like my senior year. We did that.
and Tony Kushner actually came down during the
Yeah.
run and was interviewed by my friend Jim O'Quinn, who you may not know the name offhand, but Jim was the founding editor-in-chief of American Theater Magazine.
Oh, nice.
And they, when they were both starting out, Tony Kushner worked like in the same building, and they used to see each other all the time, so they became friends. So it was natural when Tony Kushner came down and Jim had retired from New York and was living here now, that Jim would undertake the duties to interview him, and it was a perfect compliment. It was a great night to be able to hear from both Jim and of course his friend Tony Kushner during the run of this show, and it was just really wonderfully done. I mean, I think Donna Clavijo had done some of the music direction, and just a brilliant performance. And I don't remember if it won a Big Easy Award, but it certainly was deserving of nomination. And the fact that it's coming back to Broadway says something about the staying power, of the pieces. They
Yeah.
were getting ready to open, and sure enough, I think they were in previews, and I think
Mhm.
their opening night was like a few days, 4 days later,
Yeah.
and they didn't get to open because, of course, everything shut down. So they're coming back, and I know that there were a lot of projects. I think another project that some people were working on was the Flamingo Kid, and that's been postponed. Of course, the opening night for Six, I think they were 90 minutes away from opening when they were
Literally.
shut down. Literally that same day, and all of those things are coming back, and all I can tell you is I can't wait. I've seen most of what's on Broadway going to be reopening. Haven't seen Six. My son did manage to go to England and see it before me. Well, he rubbed it. He
That's
let me know about that one.
I'm in final callbacks for that show, but for Six in Chicago. Like
Oh,
Broadway in Chicago. It's for there.
so yeah, I mean it's divorced, beheaded, divorced, isn't it? No, divorced, beheaded. I'm trying to remember the thing.
Yeah.
Whatever. Anyway, divorced, beheaded. They do that. It's always divorced and beheaded for the first two.
Survived is one.
Survived is the last one. I can't remember what the first one
Yeah.
is. Anyway, but yeah, that I mean, and again, it was a pop musical. Now the other one I'm really quite anxious to see, of course, the MJ musical that they're getting ready to do, which should be spectacular.
That actually
What's
keeps
that?
getting it keeps getting postponed. Like,
Right, it's going to open in December now for previews.
Yeah.
I don't think it's going to actually open till January. And I think also Mrs. Doubtfire is finally going to open, which they said is I think it's Rob McClure is going to be doing that. And I'm trying to think what was the other one, the big one that was open. Of course, I haven't seen Jagged Little Pill. I'm sure you have already, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, you see, when I wanted to go see it, it hadn't opened yet. It was still in previews, so I didn't. Just unfortunate, but I had seen all 5 of the nominated musicals for 2019, and so I was really looking back in 2020. I was going to hopefully see Jagged Little Pill and a couple of the other ones that were getting ready to open up, and of course they didn't. There were a few that crept in. Jagged Little Pill was one of them that got in early, and got nominated for the Tonys. But the Tonys are going to be very interesting this year too. I know you probably know that, right? 4 hours on 2 different platforms, and they're going to announce everything except like best play and best musical. Like 3 or 4 of the top awards are not going to be announced in the first show, and then they're going to have a gala, welcome back to Broadway,
Right.
And that's when they're going to announce the best play and best musical. But it was a short season. They only allowed a few of the shows to partake, if you will, in this year's Tony Award. So in a sense, this is going to be a year with an asterisk. Like when somebody gets caught cheating in baseball or something like that. I mean, it's not a full season. So they're going to be deserving of a Tony, but it wouldn't have been the same had there been competition. I mean, it's the same thing. I always harp on 1957. Probably one of the most innovative shows that came out was West Side Story, and everybody expected that West Side Story certainly that must have won a Tony Award. And while that year they happened to go up against The Music Man, and that year the Music Man just pretty much took home all the awards for Robert Preston and Barbara Cook, etc. So Meredith Willson outdid, believe it or not, Bernstein and Sondheim. So nothing you can do about that. But the years that you have, I mean, in 2003, the most competitive, if you will, the most productive musical on Broadway, Wicked, in 2003, did not win the Tony Award. Avenue Q did.
Yeah.
And in 1975, the show that has been the most long-running American musical, when it was revived in 1996, Chicago didn't win anything when it was first on Broadway in 1975. So go figure. Tonys don't mean that you're successful. And that tells you right then and there.
We won Tony for Best Revival, and then we closed. Like,
I know, and you were very richly deserving of it. But it's aggravating because sometimes if somebody wins a Tony, they still close. The one that blew my mind was a few years ago was Carousel. What a cast! What a cast! I mean, you had Jesse Mueller again. We mentioned earlier. You had the first
Henry.
Josh Henry. You had the first casting of a black actor in the role of Billy Bigelow. You had Renee Fleming, one of the most beautiful opera stars ever in the world, was singing, June is busting out all over, and You'll Never Walk Alone, and oh my God, it was just amazing, and it closed. I mean, why? And then you see other shows that for some reason they just stay and stay and stay, and sometimes there's a formula to it, like Chicago. The Weislers, Barry and Fran Weisler, they've got a formula. My friend Katie Huffman was in that. She played Mama Matron, right? And what do? They put stars in every now and then. They started off with BB Newworth and Anne Reinking, and then they supplant other people. They'll put somebody who's a hot product and say, you're going to do this for the next 6 months or 13 weeks, whatever it is. And so people get interested. Oh, I'd like to see her do that. And so they always get the people to come in there. I would love to see Katie do that role all the time. I mean, I'm sure she's wonderful, but I guess people, and I guess this is something that has to be asked of you too. Do you actually, after a certain point in time, sort of welcome the closings because you kind of get burned out from performing the same thing, or are you still pretty much unaffected by that? You're pretty much fresh.
It's a little bit of both. Like with Beautiful, I was ready to go because I had been doing it for almost 2 years, So like at that point I was like, yeah, it'll be sad. I'll miss doing the show. I'll miss everyone that I'm doing it with. But like, I came to the city because I want to work on new shows. I want to do new works. I want to do a bunch of different things. So like, you kind of have to part ways, and it's bittersweet. But yeah.
Well, I hope that you will keep me in mind when you come back to New Orleans. Just drop me a line or whatever. Let me know what you're up to. And if you do get any of the callbacks, please keep me in mind as well, because I can't depend on Broadway World or Playbill to let me know.
Right.
But it's really wonderful to have you tonight, and to see a successful Broadway performer from our hometown doing well. And again, I'm not certain that you'll have a big role very soon, but I think you keep plying your trade, all good things will happen, and that it's certainly a possibility. A lot of times, as it's not how talented you are, and necessarily who your agent is, but just sort of who's lucky to happen to have a role that pops up. I mean, how many times have people gone to open call and gotten a role that they never expected to get, and they go on to become a star? Or somebody like Sutton Foster, who's in essentially the ensemble, just doing their thing, and one of the lead actors leaves for whatever reasons, and they get an opportunity, and a star is born. So hopefully,
I'm waiting for this new show that I'm in that I was supposed to be doing, but COVID. I think it's gonna.
Yeah.
I think it's gonna rock Broadway. Like I think it's gonna be a hit. I think people are gonna love it.
Do you like the opportunity to originate a role, which everybody will have to kind of emulate what you've done, as opposed to having to follow somebody else's role?
Yeah, getting to work. It's called Limpika, and getting to have we've done a few workshops and labs and stuff, and getting to like work on that and originate it is like really exciting. It's
yeah.
I don't know.
All right. So sounds like you're getting called.
Yes.
That's a call back right there. Well, listen, I want to thank you again for being with us tonight. Again, Ximone is hopefully going to be back to see us again soon. If not here on this show, then perhaps on a stage coming to you one day soon. And perhaps if you go up to New York, you'll be able to see her perform. Again, for those of you who are interested, Songs for a New World by Jason Robert Brown is now available on demand. If you want to find out more, this is where you go for tickets. And I do not think anybody who has not seen the show will be disappointed. It's got so much to it. The one thing that I would say, that because of the way that they shoot these things, you may miss some of the grand scale of all the different performers, unless they've got 3 or 4 different cameras to capture things, and editing mix that they're doing. You may lose a little bit of that, but I think that long most of what you're going to be able to enjoy you'll get, like, I would say 90% of what was going on. You might miss a little of the action on the side or whatever, but I think that it's well worth your while. I don't know what the charge is, so y'all will have to just figure that out for your own. But again, I want to thank you for being with me, Ximone. I'm going to ask you to stick around for just a little bit while I say goodnight to everybody. Again, this is Alan Smason. It's been my pleasure to be with you for this past hour. You've been watching NOLA Theater Talk. You can watch us every Monday or Friday that we're on the NOLA Theater Folk Facebook group, on the theatercriticism.com Facebook page, on my own YouTube channel. And as always, ladies and gentlemen, I want to thank you for being with me tonight, and I'll see you